Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Ask Tom session, Multi-Cloud Happenings. We're very happy that you joined us today. So I wish you a good morning or good evening or good afternoon, wherever you joined us from. So today's session, I'm really excited to talk about the path to multi-cloud with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Services. So Stephen, go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So my name is Tammy Bednar, and I'm an Exadata database service and base database service product manager. And today we also have with us our experts, Suzanne Holliday. So Suzanne, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Suzanne Holliday, Senior Principal Product Manager for Exadata Database Service, Base Database Service, and Exadata Cloud at Customer. And I have a multi-cloud specialization as well, thanks.
Fantastic. And then we're really happy to have Stephen Cross from OCI join us. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, Tammy, thanks. Yeah, hi guys. My name is Stephen Cross. I'm a Director of Product Management in OCI, covering our multi-cloud and migration services.
Fantastic, which is perfect because, we're going to be talking about the path to multi-cloud. So if you have any questions, please post them in Q&A. Just press the Q&A button, and we will either answer them live, or we will hopefully have some time at the end of this session to have a discussion or answer them live for you as well. Okay, just as a reminder, we will post the recording in Ask Tom and also on our YouTube channel, but please ask any questions that you have during our session. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Suzanne.
Thank you very much, Tammy. Thank you, Stephen. So I think we've got a really exciting session lined up today. So we've invited Stephen on as a guest because we really wanted to give you the perspective of what Oracle is doing today with our very, very strategic and forthright multi-cloud strategy. And the aim of the session today is to really take you through that journey, whether you are really have chosen for a cloud provider already as a strategic provider, or if you've got workloads on premises, as most of you still do for mission critical, and you're looking to move those across. So the aim of the session really is to show you this breadth that we've got. And I think it's going to be a really great lineup. We're going to show you a variety of different OCI cloud services that can help that journey, make it easier. But at the same time, we're also going to be showing you a selection of slides, a selection of content, I should say, that really shows you what the services do and how this can help you with a multi-cloud strategy. So I think let's start off by looking at the strategy today. And every time we do these multi-cloud sessions, we really have to use new stats, which is really positive because it just shows how much the industry is rapidly changing. So I think what really jumps out on this slide is this S&P report. Actually, this one was commissioned by us, by Oracle. And this is part of the global market, S&P market intelligence. And this states that we've got 85% of enterprises that are actually going ahead and actually have a multi-cloud strategy today. So what that means is that when we talk about multi-cloud, we're not talking about whether you're actually doing it. It's clear that you as customers already are doing it, and you are actually provisioning across multiple clouds today. And again, even this other stat that we've got 98% as well here, stating that all enterprises surveyed are either planning to use or are using more than one cloud provider. And 31% of that study actually divulged that customers are using 4 cloud providers or more. So very interesting statistics here. And Gartner's is the 85% where it talks about the infrastructure strategies that are really integrating on-premises as well as co-location. So this is where our Exadata Cloud at Customer would come in with, let's say, a fast connect provider on the actual fabric to have this closed latency and deliver cloud and edge options across workloads, which is really staggering when you look at the progress that we've made in the last couple of years. Like I just said, these stats are evolving and getting higher and higher every year. Next slide, please, Stephen. Thank you. So I'd really like to talk about really just the just the breadth that we've got today. So Oracle, I don't know if you actually saw Larry Ellison speak at Oracle Cloud World, but one of the major driving forces of the entire theme of Oracle Cloud World was our multi-cloud strategy, right? And by that definition, what we mean is we're meaning that we're combining 2 or more public clouds together as a multi-cloud deployment paradigm. And then we're working seamlessly with you as customers to get you to these to get your workload, onto multiple clouds. And where we really feel value is that we're really anchoring the workloads with the Oracle database as well as other OCI services too. So we've got a very, very strong hybrid cloud strategy as well. I think you've probably heard these terms heterogeneous and homogeneous, right? So homogeneous means that the cloud solution belongs to a stack. So that could apply here. So for Exadata, for example, you've got all the way through the stack from the Oracle Exadata database machine through to Oracle Exadata Cloud at Customer. And that would be our hybrid strategy. And then we've got this heterogeneous strategy that applies to multi-cloud. And then these, all these services come together. And then what you've probably heard latest as well is this dedicated cloud, where we're building your own cloud. So we're delivering complete cloud services. And, the aim here is to meet very, very rigorous compliance and compliance and security requirements through this dedicated region at Cloud at Customer. Next slide, please. So one thing, going back to Oracle Cloud World, that Larry really said in his speech, that in his actual keynote, he really hammered home this idea of the Internet of Clouds, and that we as Oracle, as a cloud provider, are the cloud provider driving the multi-cloud strategy. And what I mean by that is that we're going out and we're actually forging strategic partnerships and connecting clouds to make it easier for you as a customer, because we really understand that you've got this diverse, complex kind of journey ahead of you, and applications, they look very, very different nowadays compared to on-premises and these monolithic on-premises kind of approaches from some years ago, where you had like this 3-tier web architecture, etc. Whereas nowadays the applications moved out across different parts of the infrastructure, and so by virtue these applications are really distributed, right? And they're on a decentralized architecture. And when you do that, you're looking probably at a multi-cloud strategy, because it's driving more diverse technology stacks, really for best of breed and for competitive advantage as well. So this is how we're here to help you today. And I'm really looking forward to Stephen's presentation, and I'll be butting in and we'll be having a couple of discussions on some of the points to really show you what we're offering today. So thank you, Stephen. Go ahead.
Thanks, Suzanne. Yeah, so what I wanted to cover is really thinking about this idea of the path to multi-cloud and what does it take to get there. And one of the key things out of the stats that Suzanne showed is the key word in that previous slide was it's a multi-cloud strategy. Companies have gone from kind of multi-cloud by accident to actually looking at how they adopt multi-cloud to really get the best business value. And when you're looking at that, you got to start thinking about, well, if I got a workload in one location, is that the right location for it? Do I need to move it somewhere else? So maybe it is the right location, and now I just need to connect it to something else. And really what we're trying to drive with multi-cloud is making sure that you can leverage the highest value services, the most differentiated services that different vendors provide, where it's best to run them, rather than having to make compromises. So we look at these kind of 4 key tenets in this journey to multi-cloud to think about, how do we move workloads to the cloud or move them between clouds if they're already there? How do we connect workloads from your existing on-premise or private cloud environment? And how do you connect those workloads across the clouds? And so as part of that set of approaches, we have a number of tools and capabilities and services within OCI today that can really help you plan out that journey and move you forward into this new multi-cloud world, this strategic multi-cloud world. So we're going to go through some of these services in the session today. First one is the easiest step to get to cloud if you're currently running on-premise is to take your existing VMware workloads. Majority of customers run VMware in their existing data centers. That is a large majority of the private cloud deployments today. And then either move or integrate that into the cloud. And the Oracle Cloud VMware solution is a great way to really take what is running on your existing data center and then move it into a cloud environment and then get the full benefit of all those other cloud services that you can connect it to. Autonomous database, database service, Exadata database service being some examples of really being able to leverage that tight integration in the cloud that you didn't have in the on-premise environment. Use cases that customers have for adopting the VMware solution can range from starting with a DR scenario to then running a hybrid across the on-prem and cloud for maybe bursting scenarios and growth, and then just a full-on data center exit, just lift and shift everything that was running in your data center into a familiar environment. You continue using VMware, you have the same operational and same tools, use the same experience that you had before, but you now have that benefit of a much more tightly integrated cloud environment as well to leverage the advanced capabilities of the OCI cloud services. Now, one great example of that is one of our customers, Tim Brazil. They largest telecom provider in Brazil. They had a challenge where they needed to move their workloads to the cloud, and they're actually running in a multi-cloud environment where they've got applications running on Azure and applications running on OCI, and they leverage the Oracle Cloud VMware solution in order to move all those existing workloads into the cloud very, very easily, lift and shift, leverage that great power of the Oracle Exadata service along with those workloads, and then interconnect those. I'm going to go into some of the details of interconnect a little bit later, to actually interconnect across the clouds and have that fully hybrid, fully multi-cloud deployed environment.
So Stephen, if we just pause there a second, you know, we're talking about Oracle Cloud VMware solution, and we've got obviously other hyperscalers offering, you know, the VMware distribution, the hypervisor in their own clouds. So what's the real advantage for Oracle Cloud VMware solution? So customers that really want to get these workloads off on premises, they may have the database, of course, on there too, but they want to get the application off there. They want to bring them out. So why would they use our Oracle Cloud VMware solution as opposed to say
great
Azure
question,
Cloud?
Suzanne. Yes, so there's really two key differentiators that really add a lot of value for our customers. One is the fact that we are a fully custom and managed solution once you're deployed in OCI. With leveraging OCI's bare metal service and the fact that we have no on-box agents, we're able to deploy a VMware environment that you have full control over once it's deployed. You get full root access, you have full access to all the VMware capabilities, and then you can manage that exactly the same as you've been managing it in an on-prem environment. Unlike some of the other alternative options out there where they offer a managed service, you have no control over the versions that are running. You have to abide to their update strategy. You have limited access to some of the capabilities that you may be leveraging on-prem that you might want to then take advantage of while you're still operating in the cloud. So that's one key advantage. The other are actually two other advantages related to OCI's deployment of the VMware solution is we actually have native VLAN support, layer 2 networking support within the OCI networking, enabling those VMs that are running in the VMware environment on the VMware hypervisor to actually directly connect to these other OCI services and databases locally within the same virtual networks and subnets without having to bridge those networks separately. And then the third major advantage is we make the VMware solution available in all of our OCI regions across our public cloud infrastructure, across our government regions. It's OCVS everywhere. Which is, again, distinctly different than some other alternatives where it's limited to the available regions. So,
that's fantastic. So the long and short of it is our customers actually have root access. They have the ability to control everything. They don't need to actually put in a change request with the hyperscaler like they might have to with in Azure, if they want to actually say, do a networking and SXT change or so forth, right? And that means that they, assuming then, because there's no agents running on OCVS, then that means that they're using the VMware tools, everything that they're familiar with as well. So,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah, so the VMware solution is a great kind of first step to the cloud to really move you quickly, data center exit or disaster recovery. Now, alongside that, you have your databases, and you need to move those between environments, and that's where the OCI database migration tools come into play. Database migration is a well-known problem. There's a very solid foundation of capabilities that have existed in Oracle database for many, many years, enabling you to move the data pump, Golden Gate, using your backups and restore. But the database migration service really builds on that foundation through a set of additional capabilities and tools to really help you manage that end-to-end migration process using a zero downtime migration tool set that builds on that baseline. And then the OCI database migration service that gives you that in-console cloud experience to help move these database workloads from one environment to another. And you can go with approaches for doing a full physical migration of a database, look at logical migration, partial migration, a lot of flexibility there in order to support the best way to move your database, and also to work in considerations for whether you need to actually do an upgrade at the time of migrating, or whether you just purely going with a lift and shift of what is already in your source environment to the target. One great advantage of the OCI database migration service is that that is actually available for you for free to use as long as you're migrating to OCI. So you can leverage the great value that we offer there.
Right, and we have the ZDM tool, which is free of charge, but this is encapsulated and drives this whole migration tool, and gives the customers a really nicely, easily to use to an endpoint, right? Yeah, so it's driven by ZDM, so it's familiar to a lot of customers as well. So that's good news. Yeah.
And ancillary to this as well, there's a number of other tools and capabilities that you can take advantage of when you're planning this move to the cloud and move between clouds. So there's tools with the migration method advisor and the pre-migration advisor that can give you some guidance in terms of what is my source database, what am I targeting to move to, what can I target to move to based on my existing environment, and then what is the right tool to actually do that transformation. So if I'm moving from some databases running on VMs and I'm trying to consolidate into Exadata, or if I'm looking to move to autonomous database, what is the actual right tool set to use, and is my source environment currently compatible with that approach? So a lot of great capabilities there to help you plan that movement, that path to multi-cloud with your databases.
Excellent.
So databases are one part of the workload, but you also have the application tier that's got to interact and potentially move alongside that. So how do you get the VMs into that cloud environment? So we have a new solution that launched the latter half of last year called the Oracle Cloud Migration Service that really helps support the migration of VM-based workloads into OCI. So this takes an on-prem VMware deployment, will introspect that environment, find all the VMs, and then guide you through the process to select which VMs need to move and help you with that process to both move them and then launch them into the new OCI cloud environment. Now, another angle to this is if you've decided to move your VMware into the Oracle Cloud VMware solution, that can be a first step to the cloud, but then you can pick maybe a subset of that environment that then needs to move to more cloud native compute capability. So you can use the same migration tooling, whether you're moving from VMware on-prem or you're moving VMware already in the cloud to a OCI compute capability. Now, VMware is just one aspect of the migration for VMs, but workloads are running in lots of different environments. And so we do have a beta sign-up currently available for our AWS support to move EC2 virtual machines into OCI as well. If you're interested in that, that's available through the OCI preview section. You can get access to that from the OCI console and register your interest in the beta participation. And I do want to highlight that just going AWS is not the end goal here. We are actively working, and we'll have capabilities coming out in beta and then general availability to move from other cloud environments, other hypervisors. This is a growing capability to really give you that flexibility to move the workloads across from one environment to the other.
I think that's fantastic, Stephen, because we've got this multi-cloud strategy. We're connecting the clouds. We're enabling customers to get their data very, very easily from on-premises into OCI, but also if they wish to move data as well from other workloads in other clouds. Obviously, AWS is beta and the others are coming on board, but we're trying to make it much easier, aren't we, for customers
Exactly,
as well?
yeah.
Because they always say it's very easy, obviously on a multi-cloud architecture and a multi-cloud strategy to actually get your data in, but getting your data out can be expensive. So not only do we have these fantastic cloud migration tools, but we also have very, very good pricing as well. Like for example, our data transfer up to 10 terabytes as well, which really helps customers.
Exactly, yeah. We help kind of knock some of those barriers down, and we'll come into some other great examples of how we're doing that as we go through.
Okay.
So I just want to go into a little bit more detail of the VM migration process, because it's more than just moving the bits and copying VM snapshots. We actually have an end-to-end process support that enables you to discover what's in that source environment. That's often a challenge for a lot of customers, is they got a lot of stuff deployed, but what's the stuff that actually matters that needs to be moved? So getting that inventory of what you have is the starting point to planning that migration and workload movement. Once you've got that data, you could then begin to group and tag the different resources and get them into different migration projects, different application workloads that need to move at different times. You can plan out your test migrations and user acceptance testing separate from your final production cutover. The tooling does support incremental movement of the data. So you do an initial movement of all your VMs, but as those VMs are still running live in the source environment, you're getting data changes. So you can update the data that's getting moved into OCI on a regular basis until you're ready for that final cutover, where you'd quiesce the source environment and do a final update of just the changed bits, and then move forward with your migration cutover. So if we look at that kind of overall migration flow, and this is really very similar to what you go through in database migration as well, but specific to our VM migration capability, you're discovering what's in that source environment using a capability called Oracle Cloud Bridge that actually puts an endpoint into your VMware environment to collect that data. We store all that VM metadata in the service, so we can then reason over that, look at the size of the VMs, the amount of storage that they require. And then during the assessment and planning, we can actually make recommendations on this is the appropriate shape to move to on compute. This is the right memory configuration and storage configuration. And we can utilize historic metrics in terms of the actual workload, CPU utilization and memory utilization to help you right size that deployment as you're moving it to the cloud. The replication piece, as I mentioned, we do that incremental snapshot replication over time until that point where you're ready to launch. And then the execution phase actually takes advantage of Terraform and Resource Manager. So you're defining where you need to deploy these VMs in terms of the virtual private networks, the subnets that they're going to be deployed into, and then generate a Terraform that will deploy that through OCI's Resource Manager. And then you can continue to use that Terraform, that infrastructure as code, to continue to manage that environment as you move forward.
So what we're talking about there, Stephen, is just to summarize, we've got migration tools for every kind of scenario. So if you've got VMware on premises, you just want to do a lift and shift. You want to get the application in, you want to get the database onto Oracle Database Cloud Services. We notice a lot of Exadata Cloud Service, Exadata Database Service customers are using Oracle Cloud VMware solution. And then we also got a lot of customers, to put it in the multi-cloud context of why we're talking about this, is that you've got your workloads on premises, But often then you'll find that customers will then actually talk to another cloud and have, this often the database will seems to be a favorite to put it in Oracle and have your application running elsewhere. Or you can have, like, let's say, smaller stacks in other clouds talking to, various size stacks everywhere, really, So it's very, very flexible. We've got database migration tools, and then we've got ways of getting the application here. But once it's in OCI, like anybody's free to do, you're free to move it wherever you want to, and actually have a multi-cloud strategy.
Exactly, and that's a great transition to the next item here. So one of the things you kind of alluded to there is when customers are moving applications, so you consider moving the database and the application. If I've got an e-business suite or a PeopleSoft and I just got to move the whole thing into OCI, that's a full stack application. And often you'll have like one full stack in one environment, another application in another environment, and oftentimes those need to communicate together. That's kind of very typical and traditional. We've seen a lot of that over the years where customers are just connecting and integrating applications together and leveraging different environments in order to do that. But what we're seeing more of now is a new style of multi-cloud deployment that we refer to as a split stack application. And this is really where customers are looking to leverage the best of breed, the really differentiated services that different vendors offer, and use those for the right parts of the application that it makes sense for. So, for example, using an Oracle Exadata database service in OCI as a key consolidation platform for your databases, but your application tier may still be running in another cloud environment, running on Azure or wherever. So having that capability to run these split stack applications is very key for a lot of customers now. And it has different requirements on the networking. So when you look at the networking requirements for one application stack to another, there can be large amounts of bulk data potentially, or maybe it's just signaling between the two applications. You may need high throughput, but not necessarily low latency. But when you get to these split stack workloads, you really need to focus in on that low latency connection between the two, particularly for database transactional workloads. You need that very quick runtime in order to continue to operate as something that seems as though it's all in one environment. And that's really the key area where we're focusing on the networking and connectivity side. And that kind of takes us into some of the other areas I want to talk to now, which is we have several options available to you on how you can connect these clouds together, on-prem to cloud and cloud to cloud. So 4 specific callouts here. First one is a service that, again, this is coming up in beta registration at the moment. It's you can find it on our preview site from the OCI console. If you're interested, do go there and register your interest in the service. Let me explain what it is. Cloud Bridge enables you to do a point-to-point private endpoint connection of a specific database in your existing environment. Today, that's a VMware-based environment or connected to your VMware-based environment, and then represent that as a database endpoint directly in your cloud network in OCI. So any VMs that have already moved into OCI can then connect back to that database. So if you're doing the testing of a migration, you can validate that the VMs can launch up and run and access the database before you take the next step to then migrate that database into the cloud. Or if you have departmental databases you need to access that are maybe not generally accessible through other connectivity that you've set up, you can target those databases directly. So a very targeted database connection option that we're launching in a few months, and say beta sign up is currently available. Now, in terms of more general connectivity,
can I just ask you a question though? So before you go on to Fast Connect, so just to make it really clear to the listeners, so why would you really use the Cloud Bridge service instead of like IPsec VPN or Fast Connect? Yeah, so
one of the advantages of using Cloud Bridge is trying to set up an IPsec IPsec or even a fast connect can be time consuming, and you have to involve your networking team. You've got to make sure you're getting the right network routes set up between environments. You've got to set all your security rules. There's a commonly a fairly complex set of procedures you'll go through with your IT organization to set up these more generalized network connectivity. Now, that may be required for other circumstances and may already be in place, but in cases where you need a fast way to get access to a database, much more controlled, constrained, just dedicated to a specific database, or even a specific CDB or PDB within that database, you can deploy this and get that direct connection without the full network.
That's quite a differentiator, really, isn't it? Going down at the CDB and PDB level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's great.
If you do want that general network connectivity between environments, that's where our Fast Connect solution comes in, or IPsec VPN. We didn't cover it specifically in this slide, but Fast Connect is really where the value is, because you get that dedicated connection, you get that high performance. It's not going over the public internet. You can have private peering between the environments with different network throughput options available, and we have a wide variety of Fast Connect partners that can help you connect your on-premise environments to the cloud, as well as cloud to cloud with cloud exchange providers as well. So a lot of flexibility there to manage any connectivity for any workload between the different environments.
And it's also very, very secure, and you've also got consistent performance as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, building on the Fast Connect, we have a specialized solution called the Azure interconnect. So specifically between OCI regions and Microsoft Azure regions, where we have a geographical presence that is very close by, and we can get very, very low latency between the particular availability domains and availability zones, where we target to get around 2 milliseconds or less to really drive that transactional performance that is needed by database type workloads. We have actually packaged up a pre-connected capability for you, so you can get your Fast Connect to Express route connection direct. There's no intermediate service provider. Very easy to provision for the regions that we support. It's in 12 regions globally right now. We continue to work on expanding that where we see the customer demand and that geographic co-location that we have in order to hit those latency requirements. It's a customer managed solution in that you have full control over what you're running over that network. It can be for your databases, your applications, very flexible solution specifically for those Azure environments. Now, building on that, the fourth column here is a specialized solution for Oracle Database Services for Azure. And I'm going to go into some additional slides in more detail, but this really provides a very easy way to provision not just the networking, but the full set of capabilities to provision the database and everything else that needs to come along in terms of how do you manage the identity between these environments, how do you manage observability when you're running these split stack workloads across environments. So we package everything up into this managed service for you to really provide a much more integrated and higher value capability for running multi-cloud databases. And as I say, we'll go into more details on each of these over the next few slides. So let me get back to...
Sorry, I just wanted to make a comment. The differences between the two is, I think a lot of people forget that bandwidth on demand part. It's really nice because you don't have to really do capacity planning from your port perspective. Know your pricing because your data charges and your ingress and egress are included for that. However, with the Azure Interconnect, we have a lot of customers using that as well. It gives them a lot of flexibility. They set it up the one time, infrastructure as code, the Terraform provider, they script it, automate it, and it works very nicely as well. And there is a local SKU available in Azure where you could get, egress included for that particular SKU on a monthly payment plan. But yeah, I think both solutions provide our customers a lot of choice. And I think we're going to be going through the specifics, aren't you, for the Oracle Database Series for Azure right now, right?
I will, yeah.
Okay.
I
Good.
do want to
spoil
just step back to the Cloud Bridge one and just go into a little bit more detail about how this works, because this is, a new and unique offering. And so what we have is this Cloud Bridge remote agent that runs in your on-premise environment. This is the same remote agent that we actually deploy for the VM migration as well. So you can deploy it once and use it for both scenarios. And then that is your local connection to that Oracle database you have in that environment. Doesn't have to be running in VMware specifically, as long as it's reachable from that environment. And then the Cloud Bridge service will then represent that database, or as I mentioned earlier, it could be a specific CDB or PDB within that database, is then represented as an endpoint within the virtual cloud network subnet in your tenancy. So that's got its own local private IP address. Any VMs that are running in that same environment or connected to that same environment in OCI can hit that IP address and connect to it. And it's connecting through to that remote database, but it appears like it's a local database. This is all managed through regular kind of database capabilities using CMAN proxy. We've got full encryption with TCP/S. So it's a very secure tunneled way of getting access. And then your regular applications can continue to connect using regular SQLnet, JDBC through this connection. As I mentioned, there's some of the key opportunities here is to use this in a migration scenario where you've moved the VMs, but the database is moving at a different time, but you need to do the testing before it's actually moved. And in cases where databases have to be in other environments for compliance and regulatory reasons, or data residency. So enables this connectivity across clouds or on-prem to cloud for very, very targeted database access requirements. When we come to the Fast Connect, so we touched on a number of these points already. So this is Fast Connect either between an on-prem customer location and OCI, or through our connectivity partners can be between cloud to cloud as well. So if you need to connect an AWS environment into OCI or Google, we have the capabilities there with our ecosystem of partners to have many different options for connecting those. Number of key advantages here. Suzanne already mentioned about some of the transfer charges and reduced transfer charges, elimination of egress transfer. If you're moving under 10 terabytes of outbound, that's covered in the free tier for the service. So a lot of advantages there, and it helps bring down those walls of kind of being locked into one environment, because that's where your data is. When we come back to the Azure interconnect, just want to give an example here. This is based off a real customer example. So this is really showing that we have this Fast Connect Express Route connection that's provided by the Azure Interconnect service. No additional providers involved. We provide direct connection there. It's managed as an OCI service, very easy to provision and deploy with the APIs and automation. And then it just gives you that capability to connect Azure virtual network with your OCI virtual network. You have workload connectivity across the clouds. You could be running those databases in OCI, connecting that application tier in Azure very, very easily. We have the ability to federate the identity between Azure and OCI as well. So you can really integrate the whole environment. Now, the key things here is when you're using the Azure Interconnect, or even if you're using Fast Connect, a lot of these things like setting up the identity federation or anything additional that you need to do in terms of really managing this workload in a multi-cloud environment is additional work. You've got to figure out how you're going to monitor these multi-cloud deployments. You've got to manage the provisioning across the different environments. You've got to deal with different consoles. So where we really have moved, I'm a little bit ahead of myself. Before I get to those amazing things, I'll let Suzanne talk to a particular use case around Azure Interconnect.
Thank you. So many of you may have already heard of Meztec, just because they've been an amazing really an amazing customer, and they have been present at Oracle Open World, as it was called back then, in 2020 on the stage with us, really touting the benefits of the OCI Azure Interconnect, because it's really brought them many advantages. So they've had this application. They're an independent software vendor, and they've got a software as a service manufacturing execution system, and it digitizes the whole of the manufacturing life cycle. This is from the process definition through to the planning and through to the execution. And the competitive advantage that Mestec have as a result of this is that it lowers barriers to adoption and implementation. And they really wanted to move to a cloud-based model, right? Because this is where they really saw the value of pay-per-use models and, you know, the economies of the cloud. But they also were very conscious that they very much wanted their applications to remain in Azure. So actually, when we actually forged this partnership with Microsoft in 2019, I believe they were the very first customer to call us about the OCI Azure Interconnect, because they were just so excited the fact that we'd got this partnership whereby they could really have the database in the Oracle Database Cloud and have, which very much was their concern, was management and how they could actually automate everything. So that it meant that they could actually go for the autonomous database, ATP, in Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, while still maintaining their Azure web app application and migrating these on-premises workloads, because they're a joint customer, to the cloud. And as you can see on the slide, they just experience massively beneficial business outcomes. I mean, even in some points that they told me that some of their workloads, in some cases, were even 500% faster with fewer CPUs as well. So lowered the infrastructure and labor costs by 50%. And another thing that was interesting on stage was that they actually managed to reduce customer complaints as well by 50%. So improved customer experience, improved on-time delivery, and improved labor productivity just meant that they were very happy with the solution. And I actually saw Mark recently at Oracle Cloud World, and he's still very happy, still using the interconnect and still developing new versions of their manufacturing execution system. So a great success for them.
Yeah, great example, Suzanne. And also going back to the use case we had earlier with Tim Brazil, they're another great example of a customer using the connectivity between Azure and OCI running their.
That's right. Yeah, they may have had a VMware environment, but they still needed a multi-cloud solution. And interestingly, a lot of Exadata customers are using Oracle Cloud VMware solution as well. Yeah.
So one of the things we've really recognized over the years as we've seen customers adopt some of these multi-cloud approaches and connectivity approaches is that there's something we could do to really make it easier to adopt multi-cloud, specifically around the database services, to cover some of these other challenges I mentioned on a previous slide. So when you providing that connectivity, that's kind of one key piece, but you have to deal with the identity federation. You want to manage the service and resource provisioning in a common way, and you need to get this common observability. So in July last year, we launched our first multi-cloud platform offering the Oracle Database Service for Azure, that really focused on these 4 key areas to streamline and simplify the ability to use Oracle databases in a multi-cloud environment, providing that high performance, low latency connectivity in the regions where we support the service, providing a shared identity with single sign-on between the environments, providing a common provisioning environment in a user experience that's familiar with the other clouds. So if you're predominantly an Azure user, you want to have a console experience that you're familiar with. And then providing that consolidated metrics, logs, and events, so you can actually manage this split stack environment from a single location. So what we did with the launch of the Oracle Database Service for Azure is really simplified that whole approach. We have a specialized portal giving you that integrated Azure-like experience to access and provision and manage the life cycle of your Oracle database environments on OCI, integrated into and connected into the Azure console. We have the identity federation, so you can federate between your Azure Active Directory and the OCI credentials, so you're signing in with a single sign-on experience. But then we're also dealing with service identity and service tokenization and things. So you have a single environment, a single identity for your overall deployment. We have the metrics and events being shipped between the OCI native capabilities and then your Azure Log Analytics, your Azure App Insights. So you can see both the application stack and the database stack in that same Azure observability platform, and then correlate the data together for your full stack deployment. And then all of this is built upon that underlying Azure interconnect, for providing the connection between your OCI Fast Connect and Express Route, but that's all managed by Oracle. So you don't need to be planning the capacity, you don't need to be deploying the connection. It's all handled as part of the service offering. Every time you deploy a database, we make sure the connectivity is there, we manage the bandwidth, we will dynamically expand the capabilities as the demand for the service grows, and that's all available for free for the network between the two, except for a small caveat on the VNet peering, as we mentioned a little bit earlier as well. But fully integrated experience to deploy Oracle database services for Azure for those split stack workloads.
And it's amazing because what we're doing there is we're actually giving the customers the ability to leverage all the high availability and the abilities that we have with the Oracle Database Cloud Services for Azure applications. So that means, you know, we've got Exadata that we can give to customers now, Exadata Database Service, the autonomous cloud services. I mean, this is so exciting that they can have, you know, a self-managing database for Azure applications, and other things like, you know, Rack that really are otherwise not available in third-party clouds. And all those benefits with that look and feel, the charges built in, and the collaborative support model as well. I mean, that applies for the interconnect, whereas if you've got that issue on connectivity, you can either raise the SR with Microsoft or Oracle, and the support model is collaborative and already defined. So
exactly, yeah, it's a great point again. And even you can see on the screenshot here, we have that support directly integrated into the console. So when you're actually operating within this environment, not only can you provision and manage the life cycle of these database services, but you've got direct access to that support. You can open a support ticket, whether it's a technical issue, dealing with limits, directly from this same user experience. So just to kind of finish up on the Azure database services for Azure, I just want to highlight where the service is available today. Actually, this is the same set of regions that we also have the Azure Interconnect today. OCI in general is available in 40 regions globally for our commercial public regions. So 12 of those are Azure interconnected regions, and the Oracle Database Service for Azure is available in all of those interconnected regions as well. So a lot of choice across the globe for deploying these multi-cloud environments.
So now you've taken, sorry, Stephen, have you finished that part of the map? Okay. So I was just going to ask you, so you've really shown us the breadth of the portfolio, where our multi-cloud strategies, the cognizant moves that we're making in the industry to really help our customers forge split stack kind of connectivity with the Oracle database here in OCI, but also very easy to connect to other clouds as well. And you really went through that journey from on-premises into the cloud, how customers can actually manage that. So therefore they can then choose wherever they want to put their data across the cloud, the different cloud providers. But when they would do this, it makes most sense that they could use infrastructure as code, because everything is automation these days. Can you just make a comment on which of the services that you've already taken us through would we Terraform ready, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we mentioned this a few times, but across the board, we try to make everything available through APIs, SDKs, and Terraform automation. You can deploy your VMware SDDCs on OCI through Terraform today. You can integrate with the cloud migration services through those same mechanisms. And we actually leverage, as I highlighted, the generation of Terraform to launch those VMs, and you can continue to use that moving forward. For the fast connect, fast connect and for the interconnect, Terraform is a key capability enabling you to actually go provision those connections. And then with the Azure Oracle Database Service for Azure, we have our APIs and Terraforms coming out a little bit later this year. It's not currently available, but that's certainly a top ask that we do see from our customers, and a high priority for us to roll that out. Now, one additional thing, actually, and finally for this session today, I do want to highlight another tool in my portfolio, which is the OCI Designer Toolkit, which, when you're planning out these movements to the cloud and between clouds, one of the first things you have to do before you even start moving the workloads is actually plan out that infrastructure, the networking infrastructure, the overall service deployment in your cloud environment. And with the OCI Designer Toolkit, we provide a visual experience for you to drag and drop and create the VCNs, the subnets, define your security context, your routes. You can define the fast connects and load balancers and all that networking stuff, as well as provision some of the required dependent resources. To design it all out in a visual environment, we generate, again, Terraform from this tooling. You can link that directly into your resource manager for deployment from within the OCI console, or you can take that Terraform and run it through your existing infrastructure as code automation pipelines. Available as an open source tool, actually. It's on GitHub. You can go to the OCI Designer Toolkit, download and play around with this tool to build out your foundation to then move all your workloads to the cloud.
That's really great. So we've got everything covered, from the prereqs and the planning phase to the migrations, to from the application side, to the database side, and more importantly is once you've got your data in our cloud, we're actually providing mechanisms and services to enable customers to connect to other clouds to run their workloads wherever they see fit. Yeah, exactly.
All so right. With that, I think back to Tammy.
Tammy, we're going to put it back over to you.
Thank you, Stephen and Suzanne. What a great discussion on how to migrate, or your path to migrate to the cloud. And I hope that our attendees have found a lot of this information useful. Now, if you have questions for us afterwards, you can definitely post them and ask Tom. And also, we have an external Slack channel that is a great channel to join discussions with other customers to find or for any questions about our cloud database services. So if you click on that, or join the link through the link that's listed here, or you can use the QR code and join our Slack channel. It also will let you know about upcoming webcasts that we will have, some interesting blogs as we post them. Also, it's a great opportunity to, just like I said, ask questions and get in a great conversation with other customers as well that are on our chat on our Slack channel. We also have some great little bots there. We have an Ask Debbie and Ask Ed. So if you are using our database cloud services and have questions about our DBaaS CLI or our OCI CLI, take a look at our bots that we have available for you as well. Okay, with that, we have about 5 minutes left. Unfortunately, we didn't have any questions come through. You guys covered all the information way too well. So we don't have any questions at this time. Any last minute thoughts, Suzanne or Stephen, that you want to leave with our attendees?
Well, I'd just like to say, and you can elaborate on this because it falls more into the roadmap that you manage, but we're making some very, very bold moves, aren't we, in the industry this year? We're going to be making some announcements later, and we're going to be really enhancing the various services that we have in the multi-cloud space, just again to make the internet of clouds even more apparent and more available for customers. I don't know if you want to.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, our overall strategy here is really to help customers bring their workloads to where they need to be, and provide Oracle's intellectual property and value to those customers, and support them where you need to run those workloads.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're meeting the customer where they're at. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, so I think that'll wrap us up for this month. Please join us next month for our next multi-cloud happenings. And if you have any topics or any kinds of discussions you would like to see on our multi-cloud happenings, please send them my way on tammy.bednar@oracle.com. Anyway, have a great month and have a great day. We'll see you later. Bye now.
bye-bye.